The grocery store was buzzing, carts rattling, fluorescent lights humming above heads, too busy to notice each other. But near the self-checkout lane, everything froze. Not because of a spill or a technical glitch, but because of the sound of laughter. Harsh, cruel, loud enough to silence the beeping scanners. A woman in high heels and designer sunglasses had stopped behind an elderly black lady who struggled to lift a worn plastic bag onto the conveyor belt. Her coat was old, 2 sizes too big. Her shoes were soaked through. Her hands trembled slightly as she placed a dented can of soup and a bruised apple on the counter. The woman scoffed loudly. "Seriously? That's it? You're holding up the line for that?" The old woman didn't respond. Her gaze stayed low, quiet, steady. But the younger woman wasn't done. "People like you always think someone's going to feel sorry for you. Maybe try dressing like you belong here." And then came the moment no one expected. A little boy, maybe 8 years old, stepped from behind the woman, tugging her hand. Her son. He wasn't laughing. He looked at the old woman, then back at his mother. "Why are you being mean?" Embarrassed, she yanked his hand. "Stay out of this." But the boy didn't move. He watched as the old woman slowly reached into her bag and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. She unwrapped it, revealing an old photograph. Faded, torn at the corners. Gasps echoed from behind. Someone dropped their basket. Because what that picture showed, who it showed, would unravel everything the young woman thought she knew about her past and about herself. And in that moment, the grocery store was no longer just a store. It was where the truth finally came home. The silence that followed was heavier than the insult. A cashier nearby froze mid-scan. A father with his toddler paused at the self-checkout. And the boy, he just stared at the old woman, trying to understand why his chest felt tight, like something was wrong, and no one else could see it. The woman in sunglasses scoffed again, yanking her son's arm. "Let's go. She's just some crazy old beggar." But the old lady didn't flinch. With delicate fingers, she peeled back the cloth and held up the photograph. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. The boy leaned forward. "Is that me?" he asked quietly. His mother's body tensed like she'd been slapped. "What are you talking about? Of course not. Come on." But now she was looking too, closer, eyes narrowing. Her mouth opened slightly, as if to deny what her brain was screaming at her. Because there, in the faded photo, were 2 children, a boy and a girl, maybe 4 or 5, in matching sweaters. They were standing in front of a small house, and between them, smiling in that same oversized gray coat, was the old woman. The woman in sunglasses staggered backward. This is fake. You're trying to mess with me." But the old woman finally spoke. "No, Maya," she said. Her voice was steady, deep, familiar. "I was there when you were born." The name landed like a punch to the gut. Only a few people still called her that. No one in the city knew her real name, not even her husband. She had left that part of her life behind when she moved out at 17, changed schools, changed friends, changed everything. And yet this old woman had spoken it as if she were still holding her from the cradle. The boy looked up. "Wait, Mommy? Do you know her?" Maya's face went pale. "No," she said too fast, too sharp. "No, she's just confused. She doesn't know what she's saying." But the old woman wasn't confused. She was remembering, and with every word, every breath, the layers Maya had spent years building, her polished life, her curated image, began to crack. "You were 5 when your mother died," the woman said gently. "You didn't want to live with your aunt. You cried for days." Maya's lips quivered. "Stop. I held you," the woman continued. "Every night. I made you grilled cheese with cinnamon, just the way you liked it. I braided your hair every morning before school. I tucked you in. I said stop." Maya's voice echoed through the store. The boy jumped. The old woman didn't. "I'm not here to shame you," the woman said. I'm just here to remember. The boy turned to his mother. Is she your grandma? Maya didn't answer. Her face was hard now, but her hands were shaking. The store was quiet again. No one moved. A quiet, invisible battle was happening in front of them, and no one dared interrupt. Finally, the old woman wrapped the photo back into the cloth and gently slid it back into her bag. She turned to leave, her steps slow but purposeful. "Wait," the boy called. "What's your name?" The old woman smiled. "Eleanor. But you can call me Grandma if you want." She left. Maya didn't speak. Not that day, not that night. But her son did. At bedtime, he whispered, "I liked her." Maya stared at the ceiling. "Me too," she finally whispered back. The next day, Eleanor returned to the store. Same time, same coat. But this time, a small hand tugged at her sleeve. It was the boy, holding a bag of gummy bears and a chocolate milk. "I got these for you," he said. "Can we talk?" She smiled. "Of course." From behind a display of bread loaves, Maya watched, silent, torn, terrified, but also curious. Eleanor hadn't expected him to come back, not really. She'd hoped, yes, but hoping was dangerous. At her age, hope had teeth. It bit when ignored. But there he was again the next afternoon, gummy bears in hand, his little backpack bouncing behind him as he ran through the automatic doors. His eyes scanned the store until they landed on her figure near the magazine rack, sitting on the same bench she'd rested on for years, quietly, without taking up space. He waved like they'd always known each other. She waved back. That second meeting was different. The boy, his name was Jonah, talked more. About school, his favorite superhero, the way his mom hated when he left his Legos everywhere. Eleanor listened, nodding, chuckling at the right moments. She didn't need to say much. He filled the space with his warmth. They met again the next day, and the day after that. It became routine. Jonah would find her, sit beside her, tell her everything, and every time he handed her a snack, Eleanor would carefully split it in half and give him back a piece. It became their ritual. Maya noticed, of course. She tried to ignore it at first, dismiss it as childish curiosity. But the more it happened, the more uneasy she became. One evening, she found herself sitting on the couch, flipping through an old photo album she hadn't touched in over a decade. And there it was, a photo of a much younger Eleanor holding a toddler. Maya, chubby-cheeked, smiling, arms around the old woman's neck. She slammed the album shut. That night, she barely slept. The next morning, she followed Jonah more closely, watched as he slipped away toward the bench with that familiar gray coat, watched Eleanor smile and make room for him. She felt something inside her tighten. Guilt? Anger? Jealousy? She didn't know, but she couldn't look away. The next day, she arrived first. Eleanor was already seated, her hands folded neatly over her lap. Maya approached, arms crossed, lips thin. "We need to talk," she said, standing in front of her. Eleanor looked up, her eyes were calm. "Of course. You're confusing my son." "No," Eleanor said gently. "He's just not afraid to feel." Maya clenched her jaw. "Why now? After all these years? Why show up like this?" "I've always been here," Eleanor replied. "You just stopped seeing me." "That's not fair." Neither was being erased. The words landed hard. Maya sat, slowly, carefully, like the bench might collapse beneath her. She looked at Eleanor, really looked, for the first time in decades. "You were always there, weren't you?" she whispered. Eleanor nodded. "Every recital, every school play, every time you needed someone but didn't know how to ask." Maya's eyes glistened. "I didn't think you'd want to see me again." "I always wanted to. I just stopped hoping you'd want to see me." They sat in silence for a long time, until Jonah arrived. He stopped, confused by the sight of them together. "Mom?" Maya wiped her eyes quickly. "Hey, sweetheart, come sit." He hesitated, then joined them. Eleanor on one side, Maya on the other. 3 generations, 1 bench. A past, a present, and the faintest flicker of a future. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even peace. But it was something. A beginning. Maya didn't return to the bench the next day. She told herself she was too busy. Errands, meetings, phone calls that never actually happened. But the truth was simpler. She was afraid. Afraid of what she might feel. Afraid that too much had already broken. That some things couldn't be fixed. But Jonah still went. He brought Eleanor a sandwich that day. Peanut butter and banana on whole wheat, his favorite. He sat beside her and asked if she wanted to play a game on his tablet. Eleanor declined, smiling, but watched as he played. Occasionally, she'd point something out, and he'd light up as if she were the only person in the world who truly understood him. Across the store, a few workers took notice. Some of them remembered Eleanor from years before. Always quiet, always respectful. A couple of them started leaving little things behind for her. A bottle of water, a granola bar, a flower from the floral section. She never asked for anything, but she accepted it all with grace. One cashier, Rosa, finally walked over. "Is he your grandson?" she asked, gesturing to Jonah. Eleanor looked at the boy, who was now giggling at something on the screen. "Not exactly," she said, "but maybe someday." That answer made Rosa smile. Later that night, Maya stood in front of her bathroom mirror, hands gripping the sink. Her face stared back at her, tired, older than she remembered. She thought about her mother, about how Eleanor wasn't her biological grandmother, but had done everything a grandmother or a mother should have, protected her, fed her, stayed. She remembered the day she left, how she'd screamed, slammed the door, promised never to look back. Back then, she thought leaving would erase the pain. But pain, she was learning, didn't work like that. It waited, it watched, and sometimes it showed up in the grocery store. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath. The next morning, she didn't go to work. She dropped Jonah off at school and drove to a florist. She stood in front of the roses, unsure of what to pick until the florist approached. "Special occasion?" she asked. Maya nodded. A long time coming. She bought a small bouquet of yellow daisies, Eleanor's favorite. At the store, she waited outside, unsure if Eleanor would show. Minutes passed, then a figure in a gray coat appeared at the crosswalk, her pace slow, steady, dignified. Maya stood. Their eyes met. Eleanor stopped. For a long moment, neither moved. Then Maya stepped forward, held out the flowers, and said, "I'm sorry." Eleanor didn't take the bouquet immediately. She looked at Maya as if searching for the truth behind the words. Then she reached out, not for the flowers, but for Maya's hand. She held it, softly. "I forgave you a long time ago," she whispered. "I just needed you to remember who you were before the world told you to forget." Maya nodded, tears blurring her view. That afternoon, the 3 of them sat on the bench together again, Eleanor, Maya, and Jonah. No accusations, no speeches, just the quiet presence of people trying. And for the first time, it felt like a family. Maya started coming more often. Sometimes she brought coffee, sometimes just her presence. She rarely said much, but Eleanor didn't push. She knew that trust, especially broken trust, didn't come back with flowers or apologies. It came slowly, like sunlight through a heavy curtain. One thread at a time. Jonah, of course, had no such caution. To him, Eleanor was now grandma. He said it freely, proudly. Once, in the cereal aisle, he introduced her to a stranger that way. "This is my grandma. She's the best." Eleanor had smiled so wide that her eyes disappeared into folds of joy. Still, not everything was easy. Maya struggled with guilt, with memories, with the pressure of reconciling the woman she'd become with the girl Eleanor had raised. Her past wasn't something she'd ever planned to revisit, especially not in the fluorescent glare of a grocery store. But Eleanor didn't ask for confessions. She offered stories instead. Small ones. Random. About the time Maya cried when her teddy bear lost its ear. About the night they stayed up past midnight baking lopsided cupcakes. About how she'd once sung to her during a thunderstorm, loud and off-key, just to make her laugh. They sat like that often, sharing time, not explanations. Then came the day Jonah got sick. It was sudden. A fever that spiked too high. Maya rushed him to urgent care. Hours passed in a blur of white walls and paperwork. She sat in the cold waiting room, hands shaking, fear clawing her throat. And all she could think was, I can't lose him. Not like this. Not without making things right. She pulled out her phone and called Eleanor. I need you, she whispered. Eleanor didn't ask why. She simply said, I'm already on my way. When she arrived, Maya folded into her arms like she had as a child. For the first time in decades, Eleanor held her again, really held her. Jonah recovered, but something had changed. Maya stopped pretending. She started inviting Eleanor home, for dinner, for weekends, for birthdays. It felt awkward at first, too quiet, too loaded with the past. But slowly, the laughter came, the warmth, the comfort of being known. They went through old photos. Eleanor told stories Jonah had never heard. Maya even brought out a box of childhood drawings Eleanor had saved. One of them showed a stick figure girl holding hands with an old woman in a big coat. Written above in crooked crayon letters, My safe place. Maya cried when she saw it. Even then, Eleanor said gently, You remembered. I just forgot for a while, Maya whispered. The years that followed weren't perfect. They had disagreements, bad days, silence that returned from time to time like a familiar ghost. But the foundation held. When Eleanor fell and fractured her hip, it was Maya who moved her into the guest room. Jonah helped, placing her bag carefully on the nightstand. This is your home now, he said proudly. You don't have to sit on a bench anymore. Eleanor smiled, tears gathering in the corners of her eyes. No, she said, I don't. And every evening after that, the three of them would sit on the front porch, Eleanor in her rocking chair, Jonah at her feet, and Maya beside her. They would talk or not. Sometimes just sit in the quiet, watching the sky change colors. And in those silences, a family was rebuilt, not from perfection, but from presence. Sometimes, the people we try hardest to forget are the ones who never stopped loving us. Eleanor never raised her voice. She never demanded forgiveness. She simply stayed, long enough for a little boy to see her heart and for a grown woman to remember her own. Healing didn't come in grand gestures. It came in shared benches, quiet dinners, a photo pulled from an old plastic bag. And it came because one woman chose to stay, even when she had every reason to walk away. Today, Eleanor is no longer invisible. She no longer sits alone. She is known. She is loved. And in that love, a mother and son found something they didn't even know they'd lost. If this story touched you in any way, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and leave a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. We love hearing your stories too. And don't forget, there's another powerful video waiting for you at the end of this one. Click it. Watch it. You won't regret it. Because sometimes, the stories we need most are the ones we almost didn't hear.